So how I build and keep my network, I always say, Happy New Year's, happy birthday, Thanksgiving, whatever it is. Oh, sorry for your loss. On your social media, people will tell you about them. So I'm always constantly saying, damn, man, I heard your grandmother's sick. I'm sorry about that. It's natural to me. So it's not forced. I'm not trying to get something out of you from doing this. I'm trying to help people change their mindset.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Practical Wealth Show. Today, we're going to talk about creating wealth through real estate. And I have my friend Jabbar, Mr. I'm Everywhere Fairweather.
Yeah, thank you.
And this is a long time coming. So, Jabbar, welcome to the Practical Wealth Show. And tell them a little about yourself before we get in and show these folks how to make some money.
Hey, what's up, everybody? You know, if you are in Philadelphia, or anybody who does real estate in Philadelphia, New Jersey, Delaware, probably all the way down to Florida, you know who I am. I've been in real estate since 1996 as a property manager, not even knowing that I was in property management for a new age at my college. I went to Drexel University, and the guy had an ad in the paper, the Drexel Dragon, say, just answer the phones. And I was like, oh, I could do that, you know, while I'm an information system technology major. And the answering the phones turned out to be really property management of 200 units for Drexel Properties. And Bart had me doing property management for years. And then one day, this guy walks in. He said, Jabbar, you got your real estate license? And I was like, no. And this was around the year 2000. I said, why would I need that? I'm going to be a computer engineer, an IS major. And he said, well, all the apartments you've been showing, you could get first month's rent. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. For the last 4 years, I've been showing houses, apartments, and I could have got first month's rent. He said, yeah, don't Bart give you first month rent? I said, no, he pays me $5 an hour. This was my work study. And this guy was like, I just sold, I want to say it was 1726 Mount Vernon Road or Mount Vernon Ave for $250,000. I remember like yesterday, because he's like, and you could have been my agent. And they get 6%. I said, wait, what? I said, well, how do you get your real estate license? He said, just go to the class, take a class. So I calculated the math. I missed out on like $40,000 or more from the 4 years I was doing this, to just giving the key and opening the doors and showing apartments. And it was weird because it was my aha moment, because I was thinking, man, I want to, you know, get a job, get a degree, graduate, make $60,000 at the time. I think it was $50,000 or $60,000 a year, and work for somebody. And while I was doing it, working for somebody, I was making them rich. And while I'm sitting here getting my little $5-6 an hour just to answer phones and show apartments. And that's really how I got started in real estate. I got my real estate license. I started going to Temple University on Saturdays, while I was going to Drexel during the week, while I was working at Martin's Aquariums, not Martin's Aquariums. When I was working at UPS, and I got my license and started working at Caldwell Banker on Sundays and Saturdays. I showed houses, and then I got the bug. 2001, I bought my first property, and before that, Drew was telling me I could buy properties without any money, and I kept saying, well, you have closing costs, you have your down payment. So how you buy a house with no money? Like you can't get away from those two things. But what I didn't realize at the time was that, one, I worked for him. He's my broker. Two, he owned the properties. So what he did was give me 6% seller's assist and a 3% commission. And typically when you buy a house, it's between 8 and 10% to buy the house. So I was buying these houses literally for no money, because I get a check back for $6,000 credited. And then he gave me 3%. So let's say $3,000, and say the closing cost was $8,000. Sometimes I got back $1,000 at the settlement table.
Wow.
So that's how I got kind of started in real estate. And I started buying 3 to 4 houses every month.
A month. Wow.
A month.
Okay.
And I was just telling a story to one of my guys, Jack, about how I was working triples at UPS because I needed to get a full-time income to to qualify. At that time, I was getting $1,500 a month salary, and I needed to double it. So then I started doing doubles and triples at UPS. I'd walk in at 8:30. I'd leave UPS at 2:30. So I'd do a day shift, twilight, and midnight shift, because at the time I wanted to be free. I think a lot of times we get into this business or any business and we're thinking like, how can we get out? And it's like, what are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to put in to get the results you want? And mine was, I did not want to work for anybody again. I've been working since I was 14. And I was just like, you know what? This is my way out. This is the path I'm going to take. And this is what I got to do it.
Wow. I want y'all to hear that. I always say, Jabbar, we tell our clients, and our listeners, success leaves clues, and you have to have a chief definite aim and desire. And like we're alike in that my desire is to be free. I don't want anybody to tell me what to do, And I was blessed. My dad, you all listen to me. Our family was self-employed, but I tell you what, I never got. I never got that go to school, get your education, get a good job talk. My dad told me you never making money, work for somebody else. We said we owned a supermarket growing up, so I thought we in North Philly, okay, and then we're in the bars in North Philly. As I told you, I take my hat off. The gray hair comes from the bar business, right? Where I could get robbed at gunpoint, once or twice a year. So I'm, very familiar with the Philly market. But what I see is that as people want that, so we mutually know each other. We met, I think, officially at BTS, Better Success League, okay, and which is a local real estate investment club, yeah,
Yeah.
in Philly. And so we see a lot of people, wide-eyed, and and a lot of people in that group, they probably win there more than I see other people, but there's people that like to be in the crowd. But what do you think is missing as you coach people when they come in and they hear, oh, the riches of streets are paved with gold, but what are they missing?
Most people are missing the understanding that they don't come back from that background. So when I started, let's say, even when 96, I worked for Prime America and did insurance. I was always looking at other people. My mom had me surrounded by people who had side hustles,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't understand, like, you can't just click your heels and blink your eyes and then you're going to be successful. It takes time. And just like I've retired a few people where now they're in California, now they're wherever they want to live because I sold them properties at the right number. They cash flowed. They kept compounding the $400, $300 they're making. And somebody had told me before, he's like, well, how much money do you want to make a month? I said 15,000, because the most happiest people in the world make between 75 and $150,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I look at it like, if I can make that and not have to touch the property, someone else can manage it, what vehicle could I take to get there? And what you see on social media, what we see or hear is, oh, this guy made $100,000, $200,000 on this one deal. What they don't realize is that happened over 5 years.
Mm.
Like, it took them a year, 2 years to learn how to market, what markets they were going to market to. It took these 3 years to make this $100,000 in one shot. Because
Right.
typically you're making between 5 and 10, maybe $15,000 when you're wholesaling. When you're flipping a house, you're usually making a 25 to 30% return. Sometimes you make 20,000, 30,000. Some people get lucky. If you're doing new construction, they make 100 grand. But on a typical flip, you're going to make between $20,000 and $30,000 consistently. Like, where, every time I touch a property, I'm not doing it for less than I'm going to walk away with. What people
Mm-hmm.
look at when somebody shows a check for $80,000, they're not including the fact that he had to pay the contractor, the hard money lender, the lawyer, the title company, the insurance, the holding costs he had over the months. All you're seeing is this check for $80,000, but he still hasn't paid the taxes of 30% or 28%, whatever it is, of capital gains, or unless he puts it into a 1031 exchange. Like, these are all the things that people are not seeing,
Right.
but they just hear from other people on social media. Look, I just bought myself a Mercedes-Benz. Well, he's leasing the Mercedes-Benz.
Right.
It cost him $1,000 a month. That's how he got the Mercedes-Benz. No one goes and actually looks. Like, I looked at a Range Rover the other day, and it was like $36,000. I was like, what the fuck? Like, and because it looked the same. So you can't tell a new Range Rover from an old one, because I was trying to tell my son who wants a car, like, buddy, you can get a Honda Accord. You can get yourself a reliable Toyota.
Right.
He's sending me all these different cars, and I'm like, you're not getting a Range Rover. You're in college.
Right.
What are we doing with it? He's like, oh, it's the small one. It's $400 a month. And I'm like, so what? You know what I mean? But we don't see that, because on social media, they got 1 second to get your attention. So they're going to show you, look at my check for 80,000. They're not going to show you, look at the fact that after I paid everybody, I paid the tax man, my check is $50,000 or $40,000. You know what I mean? And a lot of times in business, we don't understand, like, from every dollar, you're only making a percentage of the dollar. Every time a dollar came into the pharmacy, I used to run 6 pharmacies. It was like we made 35%, a 35 net profit off every dollar.
Mm-hmm.
That's after pay everybody. So people are like, oh, y'all brought in $1 million. No, we brought in $1 million, but the net or the profit margins was 300 some thousand, which we paid ourselves out of that, which was our salary, paying other people and everybody else in the company. And then we walked home with 100,000.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then you go, oh, really? Yeah, that's really what happened. And we worked 7 days a week, damn near 14, 15 hours a day.
With no benefits, with no, you don't work, you don't eat tight. See, people, that's what I mean. People don't, there's this, that I tell people, you can't get your financial planning or whatever from social media, because you're not getting the whole story. I think sometimes one of my pet peeves is I'll see, how should I put this? A lot of times the clips I see are appealing to a certain market segment's propensity to consume, right? So they lead with the Lamborghini, they lead with the whatever. Hey, I just bought a G-Wagon and wrote it off my taxes. But you can do that, but it's more to it than that.
Right. And what happens is NLP, neuralistic programming. Frank Kearns was one of the masters of it because he'd always show himself with a jet. Ty Lopez had the greatest video on the internet ever where he showed in my garage, and in his garage he had a Lamborghini and it was two vehicles. It was a Lamborghini, a green one and a black one, and a Ferrari, I believe, in California. And he talked about a program. Well, guess what? He showed these two vehicles.
Right.
You paid for it because now you got his free program, 67 Steps to Wealth. You got his program, which was free. And they put you in, and as you're consuming it on the side, a pop-up and say, hey, you like this? Here's something else I'm selling for $10,000. So you paid for the Lambo.
Right.
You paid for his Lamborghini. You paid for his Ferrari. And people would argue whether it was leased or not. It didn't separate the fact that he had two vehicles in his garage. I want to say it has somewhere around 16 million to 70 million views.
Wow.
And Ty Lopez is one of the most famous people for stuff he does because he understood really quickly. If you do your research in basically internet marketing, you would start to realize that every business you're in is really a marketing business. There is no
Come
more
on now. That's
no,
see that is funny. I always tell people, like I was in Cincinnati. I was speaking to insurance agents. I said, listen, let me tell you what business I'm in. So what business are y'all in? Oh, yeah, we're insurance business. We're in the people business. No. You're in the marketing business, okay? You have to be a marketer of the thing and not a doer of the thing. I used to tell people at BTS all the time. See Jabbar there? Jabbar is the most brilliant marketer I've ever met, okay? And so now the product you move is real estate, and really that's a tool to creating financial independence. So you just use that as what I call your preferred asset class that you decided to master.
Yeah, the vehicle I chose. And this vehicle is one of the things that is never going to change because every time a baby's born, and you walk into a house, guess what happens? If you walk in a house, there's 5 people in the house, 2 people live there, mom and dad, or girl and girl live there. The other 3 are children. Guess what they're going to need? A roof over their head.
Right.
When I caught that, when someone told me that, he said, Jabbar, every business you told me about, anything can happen and it stops. But guess what people are going to be in? When Drew was telling me, he said, everybody's going to need a place to live. Every child born needs a place to live. Every old person needs a place to live. Every immigrant, everyone, if you don't like immigrants, guess what they need? A place to live. He said, that's never going to change. And they're not making more land. They make more of everything else.
Right.
But they're not making more land unless you want to get on Elon Musk's rocket and go to Mars, but you'll be dead before you get there because it takes 50 years or 70 years to get to Mars from here, even on the fastest ship. And then when you get there, there's no guarantee that there's air on the other side. It's the craziest thing when people are like, oh yeah, I want to go to Mars. No, and then only the richest people in the world are going to be on that rocket.
Right. It's like that tourist, unfortunately, that was trying to tour the Titanic and their
submersible.
Yeah,
with
submersible.
The PlayStation joystick.
So listen, y'all got that. Y'all are too rich. You had nothing better to do. I like it right here.
Right. But back to one of the things you said about what people are lacking. They're lacking the foundational education that needs to understand. Yeah. Like a long time ago, a friend told me, he said, Bar, and he had sold a shitload of drugs. He was doing like 3.2 million a month. He had about 15 years in jail, which is that fast money. Oh, you want to chase the fast money? It comes at a price.
Right.
Either you're going to get killed or you're going to go into jail. And I had told my cousin that when we were doing, I was doing my real estate, and I told his mom, and I said, look, he can end up in jail or he ends up shot, but real estate, I think, is the path you should take. But back what I was saying, he said, Jabbar, when you get a lot of money, you're going to go crazy. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I want to buy and do this. And he said, nope, you've never had a lot of money. And when you get it, you're going to go crazy. And it offended me. But then when it happened, I was like, oh shit, I went crazy.
Right.
Because as the money's coming in, what you're not understanding is you're going to have people pulling you from every direction.
Yes.
And when you normally could just say no because you don't have it, you really don't have it. And now you're like, I ain't got it, and they're asking you for like $20, $100. Now people are asking you for $1,000, $20,000. Like, people don't understand the pressure you have when you have money is that now people that you couldn't help before, you're like, man, I can help my mom, I can help my dad, I can help my aunts, my uncles, I can help my sisters and everybody else. But now, instead of you, like I tell people, you float to the top and you're starting to swim and you're good. And then now all of a sudden you start putting weights back on your back.
Right.
That's why these athletes go broke. They'd be like, how the hell did he go broke? He had $40 million or $100 million guaranteed, $80 million guaranteed, because he had all these things weighing him down.
Right.
So when he got to the top, now he got this weight. As soon as he got his first check, hey, buy this person a house, buy this person a car. You're going crazy because you would normally not do that.
Right.
Because every car you bought the person, every house you bought the person equaled a debt. And because we don't have education to realize, like, even if you paid off cash, there's still car insurance, there's still gas, there's still maintenance. Meek Mill said it best. He said, how you going to drive my car? You've never drove a $400,000 car. You can't even afford my brakes that are $40,000 a pop. So now you want to drive my Bentley, burn out the Bentley brakes, and you can't afford the $40,000 to get the new brakes.
Right.
Like, they don't understand that the higher, the nicer the thing is, the maintenance on it is better. Just like when you get a woman that's a 10, like this, the crazy thing, the crazy, good looking crazy.
Yeah.
She's a 10. She's this crazy. It's a great thing on the internet, on YouTube. It got 1 million views where the guy was like this: crazy good looks. You want a 7, and then she's a 4 crazy. You know what I mean? Because if you get a 10, she's a 10 crazy, you're shit out of luck. And as soon as your money runs out, she's gone.
Right. That's
But
right.
we never get the fundamentals where you start building on your success and saying, all right, where's the first thing I need to do? Okay, I gotta get a company. So the money flows to the company because companies pay the least amount of taxes. I got to get a trust, a life insurance policy. I got to figure out how to protect the money. So my thing is SIP. My acronyms are SIP: Save, Invest, Protect.
I like that.
I came up with that because I was always trying to figure out how to say this. You save money to invest the money, and then you protect the money that comes back. So SIP. Because what most people do is you save money, you blow the money, and you go, oh man, I got what I wanted. I got the car I wanted. They don't look at it like, well, if I buy a house and it costs me 15% down, and I invest 15 grand into this property, it brings me in $1,200, $1,400 a month. So over the next 2 to 3 years, it's giving me a return. It pays for the car. Same thing I thought about.
You buy the asset first. Yeah, you buy the asset first.
Buy the assets, and then the cash flow from the asset pays for what the toy you want, the liability. So if you can save enough to get your shit right, then you invest it, then you protect it. So now when the money's coming in, you have it in a trust, which has a management company, which have LLCs. Because if something happens to you, what happens to your properties? If you have no will or trust, then now the government takes it, or your kids fight over it, and no one's looking at the past to say, well, here's how my grandmother, what happened to her. Here's what happened to my mom. Here's what happened with my brothers and sisters. We fought over grandmother's asset. We fought over mom and dad's assets because none of them had a succession plan. We don't know who's going to be the rich one in the family. We don't know who's going to be, the wealthiest. But if we have a succession plan, like they said with the Rockefellers and different families of wealth, each one puts an insurance policy on the kids, and then the money goes into the trust. The beneficiary is the trust, because now the trust has $6-7 million in it that now it invests and says, hey, when you turn 21, you get this amount of money. When you turn 18, you get the 18, 21, 25, like I did with my son. My son gets a certain amount of money at 18. He gets a certain amount of money at 21. He gets a certain amount of money at 27, because mentally we're not there yet. So if you think that you can handle winning the lottery and not go broke, well, the problem with that is, if just by factual evidence, what is it? Something like 83% of the people who win the lottery go broke within the first 3 years. Just imagine that. 3 years, you go broke from winning the lottery. Oh man, I just got $200 million. I think the one guy, he gave his church $23 million to one guy who won $100 million and he's broke. And I was like, that's crazy. But even Oprah interviewed people who went broke winning the lottery, because
I've seen it, because you can't change who you are. If you're illiterate, you're going to revert back to the mean of where you see yourself if you get that kind of money. I've helped people do death claims from the insurance that we put on them, damn near $1 million with less than 4 years broke.
Because here's what happens. Also, your influences. The reason why you want to be a part of groups like BTS or any of your normal RIAs is because you're now surrounded by people who actually know what to do with the money. And they're not driving to these RIAs with the Bentley. They're not driving to the RIAs with the Mercedes. They're driving with the Toyota, maybe a Lexus. They're driving up with normal, regular cars, even though they can buy any car in the world, because how many cars can you drive? One at a time, right? So they're looking at it like it's just a way to get from A to B. They're not looking at it like it proves to people my wealth. What we have to do as a people is we got to stop looking at these things and assets as a wealth category. Like, oh, you have this car, you're wealthy, you have money. You have this jewelry. Listen, I got this bead on. I remember this guy who made more money than me, took me to go get a bead, a stress bead, right? And he has all these beads and these chains on. And one day I thought was like, damn, this guy looks broke. In my head, I'm like, but he was like, Jabbar, I own 10 nail salons. 10 nail salons? He said, yeah, we got 10 nail salons. We got this restaurant here. She took me to the restaurants. I'm starting hanging out with him. And the guy who's wearing t-shirts and beads was making $30,000-$40,000 a month to himself. Like after everything was paid. But he just had a little regular card. I'm like, damn, but why? He's like, Jabbar, who do I need to prove this to? And that's the part we have to change to be successful.
I tell people, look, you want to be you want to have impressive financial statements. You're not trying to impress people with what you drive and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's the tendency to do that. I want to tie off this segment because there's so much stuff I can talk to you about, because I want to talk about the marketing part. But if I were new, so one of the things I try to do is what we teach is that investing is really, and which is, I think you proved my point, is really more about becoming something than about buying something. You have to become like that person you talked about. You didn't see the 3 years worth of stuff. That's what I call becoming, right? And so if you were to sit down with people, because I can't find realtors that want to do this. Like you'll see it in the stock market. People say, well, okay, they'll show you how to use equities, and hopefully at 65 you'll be able to retire. Blah blah blah. You need this amount of money, $2 million. That actually plan doesn't work. I don't have time. That's another talk for another day, but it doesn't work. But could you buy? I'll challenge people. Could you buy? You're buying 2 or 3 houses a month, and could a person literally, if let's say you were to teach him or somebody were to teach him, buy a house or 2 or 3 a year for the next 5-10 years and become financially free?
Of course, it's called a BRRRR strategy: buy, build, replace, refi, and repeat. It's the number one thing to get wealth, because every time you refinance a property, you're pulling out tax-free money.
Yep.
And that helps you buy the next property. And because you bought the first property, so how it worked for me was I bought 11th Street, 5441 North 11th Street, and I was making $400 a month. Well, that meant my income went up by $400.
Yeah.
Before it hit my credit report. So what I was doing was trying to beat my credit report, beat my debt to income ratio. So as I bought the property, before the mortgage got recorded, before anything showed up on my credit report, I had a lease saying I was getting, I can't remember at the time, but let's just say $750 at the time. $750 every month from the government, from Section 8. Boom. My tenant, her own responsibility from that was maybe like $30. So she gave me $30. Section 8 gave me $720, $750. Every month got deposited in my account. So now I'm showing them I got this money coming in. I have this lease. I'm applying to get another property. Plus, I still had my job from UPS. I had my job from at Philabagel. I worked at a bagel shop, and I did Coldwell Banker on the weekends. So now I'm showing income. I have extra income coming in of $400 after I paid the mortgage. So now they say, oh, Jabbar, you qualify to buy another house. So what I would do is I'd put 4 under contract, so that by the time my credit report got hit for the first 3, I'm now showing I have 4 more incomes, or 3 more incomes, however you want to call it, coming in. So now I'm making $1,200 a month cash. Plus, they're only seeing that I have a debt of the other 3, not the 7 that I got. Then when I got to 10, they're like, oh, this guy has 7 other incomes coming in. He can afford to buy these other 3 properties. So I'm beating my credit report at the time. I'm beating everybody, to get to it. And this is when I didn't know what I was doing. I literally was just doing it because this guy told me to do it. Drew was buying 7 houses every week. He had bought 150 houses a year. He was bringing in, at that time when I met him, something like $295 when I first met him a month. And I think when I left, he was doing somewhere around $500,000-$600,000 a month in rental income.
Wow.
Because he had a whole system in place, and I was buying turnkey properties. The word turnkey just means that I was buying properties that already had tenant in place. A lot of times people mess this up where they try to buy a shell, they get a contractor to fix it up. And the biggest lesson you're going to learn in real estate is contractors are good when they're good, they're bad when they're bad, and they're usually the ones that fuck you the most, no matter if it's your family friend,
right?
No matter who it is. It could be your uncle, your dad, whoever it is. You give them a lump sum of money, they disappear. And I did the same thing. I gave somebody 20 grand, never seen the guy. And I always tell people, by law, you could give them a third, 1/3 up front, 1/3 in the middle, 1/3 at the end. Or, which is good, is to say, hey, I'm going to get this materials from Home Depot. They're going to call me. I'm going to give them my credit card, and I'm going to pay you every week. I'm going to give you some money up front to start the project. Not enough that you screw me over. And then again on Friday, when you show me that you put in the kitchen or you put in the electrical, the plumbing, you get the rest of your money. Not a penny before that. And what people do is, oh, it's my uncle. I gave him 50 grand. Now the uncle does a little bit of work, gets to 20, the 30,000, he disappears. You never see him again, because guess what? You gave him all the money up front. So he has no reason to finish it out. Why am I going to finish the job out? Now you would think, okay, they're licensed and insured. It doesn't matter. And one thing I tell people is when you're first starting out, you have to understand the game. And if you can get a shortcut of buying a property or meeting someone who's done it before, like I lost everything in 2007, 2008, 2009, like everybody else. But I was smart enough to switch it up and start selling and buying from people, because at that point I realized that all these people are like me. They're in trouble. They're in foreclosure. They're in pre-foreclosure. They're divorced. I ended up getting divorced. They're did I have an estate sale? My dad died, so I had an estate sale with my dad. Everything was going to shit around me, but I started to realize we're in the marketing game. So these guys are sending me postcards, sending me letters. And one guy sent me a letter, Steve from ASAP Sold, sent me a letter saying, me and my wife was riding around in your neighborhood. We'd love to buy your house. Well, two white guys aren't going driving around in Logan in Philadelphia in 2006, 2007. Like they're not, that's not a place they're going to buy. And I started laughing. I was like, well, I know you ain't doing that. So what are you doing? And he was sending out 2,000 yellow letters with red writings to everybody who's in pre-foreclosure. So people didn't know, like, the reason why I knew everybody is because I had 15 houses, 14 houses in foreclosure at the time because no one was paying me. And I tell people all the time, you ain't paying me, I ain't paying the bank. You ain't living in my house for free. Like, you're going to lose your house. You mess up your credit. I can start over. Like, that's the part that we have to also understand is you can start over. You can make a mistake.
Why? Let's stop right there. Why did you know? Because remember, I talk about becoming. What gave you the confidence? And they just heard it, but I want you to say it, that you could start over. Because
my whole life, being a Jamaican kid in Philadelphia, I got beat up, attacked all the time. I would literally go to Catholic school. My whole life, my parents sent me to Catholic school. I was a nerd. And one of the things that would happen is I'd walk to school. I'd have to fight the people to get to school. I'd have to fight the people in school. And then when I came home, I got a beating because my dad would say, you go to school to not to talk, not to get in trouble, to get an education. And I'm trying to explain to him, like, these Americans don't understand that I just want to go to school and get home. So then I start realizing, like, if I don't fight back, I'm going to have a very horrible life. And then I could play sports. So then I became popular in high school because I could run track, I wrestled, I boxed, I took karate, I got good grades. I became managing director of Philadelphia, some program, got the Ed Rendell Award. Like, I became famous when it was a thing, like, not to be famous. Like, it was like the paper and the radio. And I started realizing something, like, this is all a game. And you got to learn where you belong in the chessboard. And when I lost everything in the sense of my dad died at 57. My grandmother died when I was 16 years old. I realized I was going through all these trials and tribulations. And I was like, damn, well, my dad told me, he said, listen, son, are you a doctor? I was like, no. Are you a lawyer? Are you any of these things? I said, no. So how can you help somebody if you don't help yourself? He said, start with yourself. If I die, my dad's saying, if he dies, there's nothing I can do but keep living. So I'm going to die eventually. You're going to have to continue, and you're going to pick yourself back up because you got to take care of your mom and your sister. So the insurance money came in. My dad died. We had insurance money. Insurance money finished paying. I gave it to my mom to pay for my sister to go to college, finish her college off. Right. So I didn't have the chance to start to worry about myself because everything that happened, I had to go, well, what about my mom? What about my sister? Then what about my wife? What about my son? You can't, as a man, fail and say, man, you know what? I'm just going to give it up and not work today. You always have something on your head pushing you forward. That's falling, you get back up. I played football. Yeah. Look, I played football. I played corner. I'm 5'7". I played corner. And as a corner, the receiver goes past you and score. You can't now. You have 4 other quarters. It's the first quarter this happened. You can't say, man, I'm a failure. I don't want to play no more. You got to go back out there and be like, man, I'm the man. He got lucky. Listen, you got lucky. It ain't going to happen again. Do it again. That's what happens. So from sports, it built me the confidence to realize, like, okay, I lost this one, but next time I'm going to get them. And what I realized in our kids, you got to put that in your kids. Like, you know what? Okay, you got a D, but let's a little bit better. Or think about, what did you do to get the D? How'd you earn the D? Oh, I didn't study. I was on my phone. I was on TV. I was outside. I was doing something but other than studying. Well, maybe if we go back and you study, you won't make the mistakes to fail. But even in real estate, I realized, okay, I can start another company because I was realizing I had all the properties in my name. And somebody told me, why you have all your properties in your name? Well, if you go to a hard money lender or a lender, they would rather lend to a company than lend to a person. And then they start realizing, like, damn, what about Walmart? How many lines of credit does Walmart has? Thousands. I can have one because it's Jabbar Fairweather, one income. Right. But Walmart has a line of credit for every product, everything they have. So they might have a line of credit with Kroger's. They might have a line of credit for the people who send them chicken. They have a line of credit for this, this, and this. And all you see is Walmart, the brand, but you're not seeing all the other sub companies that they have where they got their own farm. They got their own cows. They got their own meat packing plant. You don't see that. You just see the end product. But when you dig deeper, you start to see like, oh, it's a company as an umbrella. And then there's all these ancillary companies under it that run and feed upwards.
Right.
But when you start your own company, you start to say, all right, how do I change my process and who's doing it the right way? Oh, okay, I got to go to Curtis. Hey, Curtis, I need to see how I can save and invest. Oh, insurance products. Because insurance, you can lend against it. You can put money in. It gets a certain interest rate, not a ton, but a certain interest rate to protect against inflation. You put money in, and then when you're in an emergency, you get money out, tax-free. If I die, this money then is released to my family, tax-free.
Mm-hmm.
So wait a minute. Does everyone use insurance? Well, yeah, but guess what people do? Insurance and real estate, the two things that goes hand in hand that every wealthy family, billionaire, multi-billionaire, multi-millionaire uses is real estate insurance to leverage.
Say it again. Everyone.
To leverage.
Why am I in the, that's what I tell people, why am I in financial services, and especially in the insurance side? Because it's recession proof. And when the economy gets worse, my business gets better. Right.
And oh, wait a minute. The perfect thing is this. Here's the thing that I tell everyone I meet. When you're making money, it's the time to invest. Yeah. Not when you're broke. One of the problems we have as a people in a society is when we're in trouble, that's when we start to find a Curtis. When we're in trouble, that's when people call me. The reason why I'm the most famous person probably in Philadelphia as a street dude, like just not with some big marketing background money behind me, but just because of effort, being on Facebook first, being on Facebook Live first, being on Instagram Live, selling properties on Facebook Live is because I didn't have this 20, 30,000 hours behind me to do advertising. I could just put the effort in because it's free. Social media is free for the most part, right? But what people do is when they're making good money, they're not thinking about investing in their brand or investing in themselves or savings. What they're thinking about is, I'm going to buy me this watch. I'm going to get me this Rolex. I always want this Rolex. They buy the Rolex for $10,000. They're not thinking, yo, I got this $10,000. I can start a company. I can do this insurance plan. I can do all these little things for the future, because as your money's up here and it's going up, you're not looking at the downside. So now when it's down, you want to invest. What you should do is when you're on the rise, before all the money comes or as the money's coming in, to invest so that when shit's going to hell, your investments can now kick in to save your butt.
Yeah. Yeah. That happened to our family. My dad was doing well, and we were in the tavern business, right? So we had multi-family, multi-use. So he'd buy the commercial up top and 2 apartments, but he would never develop the apartments, right? And mixed use, right? And I was like, Dad, we need to get some real estate. It's like 1990, right? 89, 1991. I was like, what am I going to do with $800 a month? I remember this clear as day because I'm trying to make sure I don't make the same mistake. Because at the time, these operators would give him the bars basically for nothing down. He could get him up and running within 3-4 months and have him making $5,000 a week. So that was the move. He wouldn't even develop the upstairs, but he was a good operator, so he could turn the business around. And so I'm like, truth be told, my favorite asset class is business, but they're really hand in hand. It's like left, right. It's like build businesses, buy real estate, take your profits, buy real estate, what you want to get into. So I want to talk about that now. So, because you mentioned something a couple of times. So what I want to do is I want to help the real estate people that are struggling, the wholesalers that are struggling, the small business people, because, all right, so we talked about creating wealth with real estate, but now, we teach a system. So when I teach banking with the insurance, I use a formula called money for life, which is get money or earn money, bank it, meaning save it somewhere, let you be the bank, borrow it, spend it, repay it, right? Okay. So similar to the Burr method, but that's the process of how we use insurance. But I tell people, like, I can't steer a parked car. So you have to get money, right? You have to make money. You have to, because the insurance thing is a saving strategy, but you have to earn money. And a lot of times when I meet with people, they're not working hard enough. Wholesale. I want to wholesale. But what do you do? How many properties you look at? What are you doing to generate leads? Realtors a lot of times are in this market are starving to death because they've not experienced a down market. So you could throw it, list something this is a few years ago, and then have, within half hour, 5, offers. Overpriced offers, right?
Well, so you had a realtor call me this morning. Realtor called me this morning. He's like, and it's funny because when the market was going good, no one was calling me, right? They didn't need to. So when I always tell people, when the market changes around, you'll be calling me. And they're like, what are you talking about, Jabbar? Because I only deal with investors. A lot of times what people do is they go, sellers are the gold mine, right? And that's what they taught you. In real estate school, they taught you sellers are gold mine.
Right.
And I use the example. People move how many times in their lifetime? Every how many years do people move in general?
Probably 7, 10.
So it's between 5 and 10 years.
Okay.
People move, right? 5 to 10 years. So every 5 to 10 years, the client you had in 2000 is going to come back to you in 2010. So you're constantly chasing for new clients.
Right.
Your bills come every month.
Right. Exactly.
But now, guess what happens if you build your investors list, which I've been doing over the years? It was called reverse wholesaling. I got buyers. Well, a true investor buys every 3 months, every 6 months. As soon as the house sells, they buy another one. As soon as the house has a tenant, they buy another one. So I built up my buyers list. And what people started doing was they're like, no, Jabbar, I got this house. I'm gonna put it on the market. I'm gonna put a sign on the yard. And guess what? Put the sign in the yard. It doesn't sell for 6 months. It doesn't sell for a year because the sellers now don't want to lower the price to what the current market conditions are, something you can't control. But investors buy, whether it's a good market or bad market, because they got contractors, they got the GC to worry about, they got the electric, the plumber, the guy who does the framing, the guy who paints the house, the roofer. They have all these other people on their payroll that need a job. So they keep buying properties. And as they're buying properties, the investors get bigger and bigger. So they grow. You could grow with the investor. So once he's buying a $100,000 house that needs work, then he's buying a $200,000 house. Now he's buying a $400,000 house. Now he's built himself up that the $400,000 house is sold. He has 200 grand. Now he wants to buy $1 million property that he can make a bigger profit. Now he wants to buy an apartment building for $2 million, $4 million. And that whole time you're selling him that stuff, the inventory. Yep. Because now I'm the asset. I become the asset because I find good deals. You can become the go-to person for the investors because guess what? There's tons of investors out there. There's tons of people that hate their job, that want to get out of their job. There's tons of investors that are already here looking for off-market deals. And all that comes down to is a phone call, a text message, ad on Instagram, or a post on Instagram that says, hey guys, I'm in real estate. What I don't understand, which is the dumbest thing ever, is people would get their real estate license and they won't tell people they're realtors or friends or family, like, hey, I'm in real estate, because as soon as you don't remind them, they go use someone else. They see a sign on the yard, they call the sign, said, oh, I called the Remax sign. Oh, I called the Caldwell Banker sign. Well, guess what happens every time you go to my Instagram, which is Jabbar Fairweather, 2 B's in my name, and you'll see a picture of me. I go to a property, I post it on my Instagram. People call me, Jabbar, where's that house at? Jabbar, what da-da-da? And they give out too much information. They'll tell the street address, they'll say how much it is, and people go, oh, okay, and don't even think about it. Well, guess what happens when people are in my DM? Somebody was in my DM. I forgot his name. I say Rafiq, but he was in my DM because I was at an apartment building. I said, oh, 20-unit apartment building in Willow Grove. Well, guess what? He hits me up. Yo, Bar, where's that at? How much is it? Yeah, I got all these duplexes and triplexes and all these all over the place. I just want 1 unit, so I'm gonna sell some of them and buy an apartment building. Well, if I didn't put the live and showed that I was in the apartment building and I didn't put the pictures up, no one would know that I had an apartment building for sale.
Right.
Or I had 18 units in Pittsburgh. Someone sent me for $890. Like, I don't give the whole address because I want you to contact me. Now, once you get my DM, I know you're in the process. Maybe that property is not for you, but now you're doing the marketing, which is just literally picking your phone up, instead of taking pictures of your food, instead of taking pictures of yourself. Hey, you know what I mean? Start being more intentional of what you're doing with these pictures. People are like, oh, well, Kim Kardashian, one of the sisters, became a billionaire because she was taking pictures of her lipstick brand that she owned.
Right.
She owned the product that she had the picture of. So when people say, oh, what kind of lipstick that is? Oh, it's the Kardashian lipstick. And then people start buying it and trying the lipstick because it's something visual. People, men and women, are visual creatures. We like to see visuals. So then we start to notice, like, damn, what's in that video? What's in that picture? And people look it up. Well, if you get the property or you get some product or service that you have and you say, hey, you know what? I'm a realtor. Guess what realtors can do? They can go get a property and show it. Say, hey, I see this duplex in Mount Airy. I'm just using the area. Mount Airy, 19150. Boom. And it's $200,000. Let me show it because one of the parts are vacant, and then talk about it. You don't have to own the duplex. Your license allows you to show properties on the MLS. So you can go to the MLS, multi-listing service for people who are not realtors, and go look at properties, triplex, duplex, 6 units, 4 units. Somebody will build a brand new construction 4 unit, put up for sale. You say, hey, this one just came on the market. This is at 1414 Mockingbird Lane. and it's available for $400,000. I talked to the seller or the seller's agent, and he said that the seller said make an offer. Boom, because what people see is, oh, it's 500,000. What they're not seeing is the guy only built it for $260,000, so he has room and he's looking to make 100 grand profit, so he'll take 360. But the realtor listed it for 500 because that's what the last house sold for, or what they said. CMA said, comparative market analysis said, hey, this is what it's worth. But they're not thinking the owner just wants to get the hell out of here. Like, yo, just want to take my win and move on to the next one. This has been sitting on the market for 6 months, 8 months. What I used to do is I target properties that were on the market for almost a year, and they're about to lose the contract or 6 months. And I start to say, hey, I see you had this property, it's been sitting for a while. The numbers don't look right. What's the owner feeling? Oh, right now he'll take this. You can pick up the phone and call other agents who have listings that are on the market. Cost you nothing but effort. That's what it comes down to now in this market, is effort that other people aren't taking. Being creative about how you market, being consistent about who you're talking to, who you're calling, going to events on meetup groups. Go to a meetup group. Somebody in a meetup group is going to have a property. First thing I always do is make noise. If I'm at an event, everyone knows who I am. I don't talk low. I don't be in the corner. And I don't talk to one person for the whole damn night. This is the dumbest shit people do too. They go to an event, they see one person they know, and for the whole night, they're in the corner talking to Kim, Karen, John, Tom, Toby, whoever, for the whole night. I go to an event, guess what I'm doing? I'm circling the event and I'm working the room. I'm introducing people to other people that can help. I'm not saying, hey, I'm not being the in-between where I'm like, yo, give me some money, and then I'll introduce you to Tom or Curtis. I'm going, hey, Curtis can help you. He's a good business person. He can help you with insurance. He can help you with financial literacy. Boom, you should get with him. I'm going, and from you, I might say, yo, Curtis, this person needs help, and vice versa. So now in the room, everybody's like, yo, how do we all know each other? Oh, Jabbar introduced us. Oh, Jabbar did this. Damn, you know what? When I get a property, I'm going to send it to Jabbar, because now I'm always in the conversation. Right. I go to free events, get free food, get free drinks. It costs me nothing to get in.
Right.
I can be the speaker in the front of the room. I can work the room. All this shit for free. And because of my network became my net worth, because now in the room, there's people from New York. There's people that come in from, I remember one time I was at an event, the people came from England down Sophie Hotel, came from England, just sold their company for $16 million. And they didn't know where to put their money, but they were like, hey, we're here, we're visiting, we're thinking out. That's $16 million that came to a room that I didn't pay to get in. I was a speaker in the front, and I got their information for free. I go to events now. I've sold houses for this guy 6 times now. And I went to an event. It was downtown. It was a networking event with other investors. And he had little shitty properties, 3 bedrooms, 1 bath. I sold for $50,000, $60,000, $71,000, $40,000. I think the last one we just did was 52 and 47. So I added like $97,000, but it was free money because I didn't have to do anything. It was a seller who was an investor who said, Jabbar, I got these small houses. They're sitting there. They're empty. The tenants aren't paying me rent. So I kicked them out. You go sell it. I got another investor who I met from an event. Didn't know him from a can of paint. He was like, Bar, I want to buy and do the Burr strategy. I'm like, oh, cool. We got this one on Bridge Street. I can get it to you for $51,000. There's people in there not paying rent. And he's going to kick them out. When he kicks them out, you can take over. Boom. They got it for 51. They fixed it up for 45. They refinanced 150 to praise for. They took out 112 or 115 tax-free money, minus what they paid the hard money lender, minus what they held their debts. He's going to walk away with $20,000 in cash, and then he's going to cash flow $200 a month for $300 a month. That's the plan.
That's the plan.
But none of that cost me money. None of it was Jabbar putting out $5,000 for marketing that didn't work, or just sending out postcards to a farm area. It was literally going, where's my target market going to be this week? Oh, they're going to be at this event at 6:30. They're going to be at this spot at Wednesdays at 7 o'clock at Jasper Street Studios. They're going to be in this room. There's going to be 100 of them. And out the 100, 2 or 3 are going to buy a house. Find out where your target market is going to be and go there. You want luxury homes? Go online and find out where people are going to be, and they're going to dress up in suit and ties in your neighborhood or area. Montgomery County, oh, they're having a celebration for something. Boom, guess what I'm going? I'm going there. You can go to meetup groups. It's literally the easiest thing. Go to meetup, type in real estate, and you'll see Philly Real Estate Investors Group. Boom, brag. All these different events. They have them on City Line Avenue. They have them in certain areas, and sometimes there is a cost. Maybe it's $50, maybe it's $24. 9 times out of 10, it's free.
And even if you go to those, sometimes that's good because it weeds out people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so you invest. Sometimes I'll invest to be in the right room, because I know everybody else is paid to be in that room. But you got to be somewhere. My dad used to always tell me, go where the people you want to meet go. Be there, right, and keep
Or
showing
and
up.
another secret is sponsor. The biggest secret that people don't realize is if you want to make a lot of money, sponsor everything. Because your sponsorship dollars could be anything. You can say, I want to sponsor Curtis's podcast, Practical Wealth Solutions. I want to sponsor Practical Wealth Solutions podcast. So right now I want to give you $100. Every time you do Curtis May's thing, I'm giving you $100. Just say my name. Hey, Jabbar Fairweather, local home buyers. Jabbar Fairweather, real estate investment consultants. Jabbar Fairweather is the man in real estate in Philadelphia in the surrounding areas of tri-state. You get $100. Every time whatever the guy said, let's get ready to rumble, and he gets $1 million. Every time you hear his voice, he gets $1 million. Well, now as a sponsor, when I go to events, and this happened to me, I can tell the story because I always tell people. So one time I had sold a property, I made some money, and a guy had an event, and it was going to be with all the VCs. All the VCs in the world, the top VCs in the world are going to be at this event in LA. Never been to LA. Called a guy up, my guy Steve Lloyd, he's a lender in the VC. He tells me he's going to this event. He said, Jabbar, the tickets are, I want to say $5,000 or $2,500, going to charity, whatever the case may be. I said, damn, okay, I'm gonna get there. I said, all right, I might go with you. Call the guy up who's hosting an event. He said, Jabbar, what's up? I said, well, I want to be one of your sponsors. He said, well, blah, blah, blah. I got all my sponsors locked. I said, did you pay for the event space yet? He said, well, no. Shit, that reminds me. I got to come up with the money to pay for the event space. The event space was $10,000. So I became a premium sponsor because I paid for the event space. Everybody else paid $25,000, $30,000, $40,000. But before he had the event, he had to pay for the event space. I wrote him a check for the event space. I got to LA. Guess what? I'm speaking to the crowd about social media marketing.
Wow.
Because all these old rich people didn't know how to use Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube. They didn't know to do a reel was 15 minutes or under a minute. They didn't understand how to have a closing. Always say, hey, make sure you go to my website or make sure you go to my social media. Look me up on Instagram at Jabbar Fairweather, 2 B's, Jabbar. They didn't know the process or how to do the ads or the retargeting, where when you go and click on something and everywhere you go, you start seeing in the back of your eye, you start seeing that commercial for the car insurance or for the real estate office, whatever it is, because you clicked on it at one time and now it's tracking you and following you through all your social medias. And for them, it's 3 cents. So I talked about all that at the event because my audience were over 50 that didn't understand Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or TikTok or Snapchat. They didn't understand that it could just be you walking down the street talking about, hey, I'm looking at this 200 unit apartment building that I'm picking up for, $10 million with a value add. And the cap, I'm going to take the cap from a 4 to a 12, all by raising the rents $100. Or that I bought this property on the beach because everybody's going to go to the beach and I got it for really cheap and it's going to cost me this, but here's my process. And just recording it, breaking it down into smaller chunks, not 1 2-hour video, not 1 3-hour video, but 5 minutes, 15 minutes. People usually do 18 minutes to sweet spot. And that 18 minutes leads to another video that's an hour. If you want more education, you really like this content, give me $4.99 and I'll take you from A to Z to how I'm doing this process. I broke that down on stage in front of all these VCs. So I have 50, at the time I collected 50 numbers of VCs who bought billion-dollar companies from around the world. Well, guess what? That's how I made my connection. I leveraged those events to get other connections because when people say, well, Jabbar, man, you don't have anything in Texas. Well, guess what? Somebody calls me and sends me a deal in Texas because I met them at the event in LA. And we've been friends ever since. I have people who have oil wells. I know people who buy oil wells in Texas, Wisconsin, and all those little states, and they do it in a certain way where they cap out the old oil wells. It gets paid $25,000 to cap the old wells. They pump out the ones that do have oil. They take a percentage. They split it with the farmers. I know nothing about commodities, but guess what? I know about oil and gas from that event.
Right.
Dr. Jason Rose is one of my friends who I could call now, pick up the phone. His friend Hitesh has ran $1 billion to his company, all because I went to an event. So that if I meet someone on here or in New York and they say, Jabbar, I got $2 million. I want to invest it. I said, you want to invest in oil and gas or real estate in Florida? Or 2 hotels I got in DC, or a hotel or a $60 million New York hotel that I got right now because of one of my friends, Steve Burke, who's a realtor who me and him talked about it. Like, he's like, Jabbar, advertising to little shit is no different from advertising big shit. It's the same marketing. Yeah, call them up and say, hey, I see you've owned this property for over 25 years. Would you be interested in selling it? And how much would you take for it? What's the difference from doing that for somebody in Logan saying, hey, I see you had this house for 10 years. What would you take for it? Same process.
Right.
The only difference is you add a couple zeros to the number. Then you take that same property, put it on your Facebook, your Instagram, and say, hey, I got this $60 million property in New York. It's bringing in $4 million a year. The NOI is 8%, 7%. Well, guess what? I refer that to Curtis May, who has that in his bank account, that $4 million to put down. And Curtis May goes, Jabbar, man, I just want to retire. I'm gonna sell everything. I'm gonna buy something big. Oh, yeah, I got the $60 million property in New York. And the guy's willing to carry 20% as your down payment because he's had it for 15 years. He just wants to walk away.
Are you ready to take control of your financial future? Hi there, I'm Curtis May, and I'm here to help you achieve your financial goals. Do you want to be the customer bank, or would you like to be the bank? Subscribe to our channel for regular updates, valuable insights from experts in different fields. The name of the game, guys, is cash flow. Okay. You can't eat equity. And our goal is to help you build, we call it being a cash flownaire, which is passive income twice your expenses outside of Wall Street, where possible, right? Which is quite possible. And so if you're interested in learning more about our services, here is what I challenge you to do, or I invite you to do, I won't say challenge, is to take our financial freedom quiz. See where you are, okay? Don't wait any longer to take control of your financial future. Let's begin this journey together.